Okay, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Everyone cooled off after the weekend?
Yeah.
Good. Brent will fill you in more on that, but first, reminder, turn your cell phones to mute, please. You're welcome, Jim. And we also have Norma Jean here with an announcement.
Thanks, Chris. Brant said we take summers off. Brant, we never take summers off. We're not allowed.
I'm impressed.
Okay.
You want to go to work?
I know I did that.
Okay.
I'm Norma Jean Infante, a member of the Gift Fund Committee, and I'd like to say employees, that we have a lot of good employees here. Some of those we don't even see, like the cooks, the dishwashers, the people who do the laundry, but we'd all know if they didn't come. But there are a lot of others that we see a lot of, and they appreciate a big thank you. We all appreciate a thank you. And also, there's a way you can thank them by making a donation to the Employee Gift Fund. And all donations are anonymous. They're all, no record is kept. But you'll know that you've given, and believe me, the employees will appreciate it. So think about it. And if you have any questions, any member of the committee would be happy to answer. Also, we have a great chairman, chairperson, right? Chairwoman, Robin Graham. So ask us anyone. But remember the Gift Fund Committee. Thanks.
Thank you, Norma Jean. And there were quite a few employees here over the weekend restoring service to the apartments and whatnot. So fill out one of those extraordinary impressions cards. I mean, Arlie was here, Chris was here, Michael was here, Edward was here. I'm probably missing a few names, but they were all here trying to get everything back in order. But Brent will give you more information on that. One other benefit, silver lining, think about it. We were without air conditioning for less than 24 hours. We had a large response. If there's a hurricane and you want to decide to stay, it's more likely you're going to be off without AC for a day or two. So make that part of your decision-making process when you wonder whether to stay or leave. And maybe you can come up with one that's satisfactory. And I think that's it for this morning. Brant?
All right, thank you, Chris. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
So I had a photo to start off today, but we weren't able to get it up there, so I'll try to share it with you maybe next week. But I was off Friday celebrating my 67th birthday. And my wife had lied to me. She absolutely lied from the start to the finish about what we were doing and where we were going and who was going to attend. And we ended up Friday night at a theater. She completely surprised me. She had rented the entire theater and had about 35 of our closest friends and family there for a surprise birthday party. And we got to see the world premiere of the new movie Elvis. So, and it involved a little shaking of the hips. That was an ugly sight. And a very obnoxious looking Elvis t-shirt, and I probably looked closer to the old Elvis in it than the young Elvis. But it was a great event, and next week I'll try to get some photos and share that with you. All right, you ready to get started?
Yes.
Lou, dim the lights. Is this the first one? Okay. COVID in Florida this past week, let's just take a look at sort of where we are. You can see that the positivity rate is 17.2%. So it's about where it has been for the last 2 or 3 weeks. So I'm not sure we can call it a plateau yet, but it is definitely not going up. That's a pretty high rate, and it doesn't look like it's going to continue to increase. The other thing I think that is interesting to look at is the number of or percentage of vaccinated residents here in the state of Florida. It's a little over 20 million. It's 74% of the population. And the highest group of vaccinated individuals are the 65 plus, with 94% of those over the age 65 who are vaccinated. And you'll recall that the definition of vaccination right now is the 2 initial shots and 1 booster. Here at Regency Oaks, a lot of you already have your 2nd booster. So here's what's happening at Regency Oaks. We have 11 residents in the IL, North and South building, who currently have COVID. It's a little higher than what it's been running. We've been looking at 5 to 6 a week, so we've doubled this past week. We're not particularly concerned. Our contract tracing does not lead back to a super spreader event, and we've you know, these are just individual one-off cases. Some husbands and wives have caught it. That Compler doubled the numbers. But there's nothing right now that we're seeing that would indicate that we need to be concerned here at Regency Oaks. We had 6 the previous week, 2 the week prior to that, and currently we have 9 in the health center. We're actually a little bit more concerned about what's going on in the health center than we are IL. We have about 58 residents, so 9% is a pretty high percentage. It's almost 10% of our population. And so that's what we're actually watching with a greater concern. The health center tends to have more frail individuals. They potentially could be more susceptible. So we're going to continue to monitor that. We have not put in visitation restrictions. So if you have a loved one or a friend that you're visiting over in the health center, there are no visitation restrictions now, other than masks are mandatory in the health center. Positivity rate in Pinellas County is just a slight bit better than for the state of Florida. It's a 16.4%. The week before it was 14.9, so a little bit of an uptick here in Pinellas County. 3 things I always remind you about COVID. It's contagious, but it's contained. We are not seeing any indicators here in the independent living that this is a super spreader event or that we've had something that we're concerned about. Practice good social distancing, and remember, if you have symptoms, tell somebody, self-isolate, and wear a mask if you're out of your apartment. COVID clinic, just an update. We did hold the COVID clinic last Wednesday, the 22nd. We had a few less people than what we actually had counted on. We don't have the exact final count. It's somewhere around 180, but less than 200 shots were given. We've only had about 100 residents report to the front desk that they have received a COVID vaccination somewhere else, either from your physician or a pharmacy. And so if you take the 200 shots we gave and the 100 people who have called and told us that they've had COVID, our second booster compliance rate is about 66%. So we're a little low. We would like to see that up higher in the 80% or closer to 97%, which is where Regency Oaks is for the 2 shots and the first booster. So we have a ways to go. You may or may not know that Regency Oaks can provide you with a one-off booster shot at any time. We just need about 24 hours notice. Omnicare, our preferred provider, is available to provide us with single doses. We try to group it, so we do 4 at a time, and that way we don't waste a vial. but one-off shots are available. If you are interested in getting this second booster, have not had the opportunity to do so yet, it is available through us. So Fire at Regency, just an update on that. Next slide. So here's the update for the blue team this week. The remediation process is going to conclude this week. And so they have completely gone through and dried out everything. They are now ready to remove the blowers and the fans and the dehumidifiers. Every bit of drywall, wallpaper, baseboards, kitchen cabinets that were damaged or sustained water have been ripped out of the apartments. There's a core unit that we describe as between the main core elevator right behind Denise's desk down to the mid-wing elevator. That's where the majority of the damage occurred. And I'm sure everyone knows, even South Building residents, that core section is closed off from the 4th floor all the way down to the 1st floor. So this morning they are reopening the 1st floor for passageway, which means you will now be able to go from the mid-wing elevator all the way to the core wing elevator. The floors, a lot of the carpet has been ripped up. But we have put padding on the floor. We've secured it. It's a safe passage. As you're walking through, you're going to know that there are ceiling tiles that are missing. All the wallpaper is off the wall. There are holes in the wall where we've removed baseboard and drywall, but we've sealed it so that it's safe, and we're now going to be able to get passageway. What we have learned is that the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th floors are not going to be returned until the construction is well underway. There was considerably more damage on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th floors, and so they will continue to be under lock and key as we transition from remediation to construction. Rashid has been the foreman who has led the blue team remediation efforts. And so at this point, we're going to transition to construction, and the new lead is a guy by the name of Patrick. We've had an opportunity to sit down with him. He's here this week, sort of getting a handoff from remediation to construction, and they're going to do a good job for us. We do continue to have displaced residents. We have a few residents who are with friends or family, but we also have residents in 2 of our sister communities, Bradenton and Freedom Square. We are doing routine visits. Every Wednesday we go to Bradenton, and every Friday we go down to Freedom Square. We take them their mail, we sit and have lunch or breakfast with them. Last week we sent a Kona ice truck for our residents. We also invited all the staff at our sister communities to come and participate. We wanted to make sure that we were thanking them for taking such good care of our residents. All of our residents continue to have buddies that are checking up with them on a weekly basis. And so they're not home, but they're comfortable. And every one of them is asking, when can I get home? We are going to be able to, on that 1st floor, we are releasing 5 additional apartments that residents will be able to return to on the 1st floor. Those units sustained minimal damage. They mostly have been closed because they were drying out, or there was a tremendous amount of construction remediation going on in the core unit. So you'll see some new faces who are returning home this week, and they're very, very excited. So I wanted to talk about a little bit about insurance, because we are over the a fire has a stage, and the first stage is the immediacy of the response, and then it's providing temporary shelter and what do you do with your dislocated people, and then it goes to, okay, now we've saved lives, now we have to preserve property, and so we go through a remediation process. And we're just now beginning to enter into the construction and returning people to normal lives. And so this is where insurance sort of takes over. And Betsy suggested that this would be a good topic to talk to you about renter's insurance and how that works. How many of you don't have renter's insurance? Just a couple of you? Okay. So this talk is for you, and we'll also give you some clarification. So when we talk about renter's insurance and property insurance, I carry the property insurance for the community. I carry it in both buildings, and you should be carrying content or renter's insurance. And within the industry, this is all new to me, but I have discovered that here's the definition that the industry sort of uses, and it's called inside the paint and outside the paint. And so property insurance that Regency Oaks carries on your behalf covers anything in your apartment that is inside the paint. So it's the wall studs, the gypsum board, it's the wall coverings, it's the electrical, plumbing, the structural fixtures, it's the cabinets, the countertops. Anything that is inside the paint is covered by property insurance. Anything that is outside the paint is your responsibility. So whether it's furniture, carpet, drapes, blinds, personal possessions, knickknacks, that's all stuff that's typically covered by renter's insurance, content insurance, as opposed to property insurance. There are three basic components of renter's insurance, and the first is personal possessions, the second is liability, and the third is additional living expenses. We're going to take a look at each one. Personal possessions. Most policies, and I'm going to talk in pretty general terms, but I believe this is generally true to all of the policies that are written here. There are named perils, and they're fire, theft, vandalism, plumbing, and electrical malfunctions. There are 13 known perils that are available and listed that almost every renter's insurance in the state of Florida covers. These are the most frequently heard of. It insures losses to any of your personal property from hail, explosions, riots, damage caused by aircraft, vehicles, and volcanoes. So hopefully those we aren't going to subject ourselves to all of those perils. Perils, thank you. Flood and earthquakes are not covered by content insurance. So, liability. Here's really important. Protection from being sued for an injury or other damage incurred by at your home by others. And so what happens if we have a situation where you have a personal possession? Let's say it's a computer, and you bring in the Geek Squad, and the Geek Squad works on your computer, and something happens, and there's an electrical short, and it creates a fire, and there's damage not only to your apartment and to others. This is the primary source of protection for you and your neighbors. It's your insurance policy. And so it's an injury or damage incurred at your home by somebody else. It also pays for damage caused by you, your pets, or families, and it affects others as opposed to by others. It affects others. And so an example of this is you're going to wash the dog, and you go to the tub and you fill up the tub, and the phone rings, and you and the dog go to answer the phone. You sort of forget about that. The tub continues to fill. It eventually overfloods, and you have 40, 50 gallons of water that leaks down through your floor and takes out 2 or 3 apartments that have water damage below it. This is the primary source of coverage for those types of accidents. it pays for court judgments and legal expenses. One of the things, and I think you probably have heard me talk about this, but workers' compensation. If you bring an individual into your apartment who does not work for Regency Oaks, and so it can be a third-party caregiver, and they come into your apartment and they trip over a rug or an electrical cord, or they bump their head, they somehow sustain an injury, your workers' compensation that is provided through your renter's insurance is going to cover their medical bills and their inability to work. And so it's really easy for, if you fall and have a back injury, you're going to miss work for 3 weeks and you're going to sustain all those medical expenses. These claims can run up to $75,000. And so this is the primary source of coverage for you. Without renters or content insurance, you would be paying that out of pocket. You're still liable, but it's going to come out of your savings and your investments as opposed to an insurance claim. And then generally speaking, a renter's insurance policy does not have an umbrella attachment to it. And so typically these policies have about a $300,000 maximum cap. And to get a broader coverage, you would need an umbrella rider, and that's an additional expense. So an umbrella rider typically is not part of a rental insurance. Additional living expenses, if your unit becomes uninhabitable. It will pay for temporary housing. It will pay for out-of-pocket expenses while your dwelling is being rehabbed. It will cover your restaurant meals, clothing, and hotel bills. And here's the way this sort of works. I have property insurance, you have content insurance, and they sort of merge. And they're going to provide a seamless coverage. You're going to pay for some things, I'm going to pay for some things, and the idea is to make you whole. And so I'm responsible for repairing your apartment and getting it back to its basic condition. Your content insurance is going to take care of your personal possessions and your out-of-pocket expenses. One of the things, and here's how that works, one of the things that they don't allow is a duplicate payment. And so when there is a loss of this type, the tenant continues to pay their monthly bill. And then there are multiple ways that they are reimbursed. They have an opportunity to get it from their renter's content insurance because your unit is uninhabitable, and so your rent is reimbursable from your insurance company. I have the opportunity to get coverage from a loss of business income because potentially that unit is no longer rentable. And so here's how we handle that going forward. You continue to pay your rent, and then the insurance companies after the fact will settle up and they will decide who's going to pay what. What they don't allow is for anyone to profit off of this. So what that means is that I can't collect your rent and also put in a claim. And that from your perspective means you can't not pay your rent and collect a premium or a payment for uninhabitability. And so it all gets settled after the fact, and it's done not between you and I, but between the insurance companies. But remember, the objective is to make everyone whole. That's what all the insurances are working to do. Here's what's not covered. Property damage to the building is my responsibility. It's not covered in your renter's insurance. Flooding is not covered in your renter's insurance. I want to talk about that just briefly. The water damage did the primary, the largest amount of damage during this fire. It wasn't the smoke, it wasn't the fire, it was the water damage, but that is not considered flooding. Flooding is a ground up occurrence And so that's a very specific definition when it comes to content insurance. There is a further discussion is needed when you talk about hurricane versus wind and rain damage from a storm. And so how you categorize that is really important. Renter's insurance will cover wind and rain damage from a storm. It would cover it from a tropical storm. As soon as it gets into a hurricane status, you have to have a hurricane rider. And so that's just an important distinction to know. We always talk about, Regency Oaks being a very safe building, and a Category 3 hurricane, Regency Oaks could handle a Category 3 hurricane with minimal damage. A Category 4 or 5 hurricane is going to sustain more wind and rain damage than a Category 3 or below. And so here's my recommendation. Not all policies are the same, and it's important to pull out your policy and see specifically how your policy reads when it comes to hurricane versus wind and rain damage from a storm. And the verbiage is very important. So that's something that you would want to sit down and discuss with your insurance agent to make sure that you have some coverage in the event of hurricane damage that could take out your personal contents. Make sense? All right. So update on construction. The masons were supposed to have been here yesterday, but they have reassured us that they are going to be here this week. They've got to finish up those masonry brick concrete walls in order to get the trusses on. The trusses will start next week, provided that the masons show up this week. As of this morning, the masons were not there, so we will continue to see if they show up. The salon is making progress. They are all the electrical, the HVAC, the walls are up in the salon, and that will be finishing up in the next 2 weeks or so. Our grand opening, which was scheduled for October 14th, has probably been pushed back. They have not given me an exact date, but I'm sure all of you have noticed that for the last 3 weeks, they've just been sitting out there waiting for the masons and the trusses. And so I think it's safe to say at this point that the 14th is probably not a doable date, and it's been pushed back by a couple of weeks. Power loss this weekend. So what happened and what is the story on the power loss? So we had another transformer that blew, and I don't know what it is this year with Duke and our transformers, but this is the third time that it's happened. It's been 3 different transformers, and so there are only 3 transformers for the property, and so all 3 have gone out this year. So we can say that we have brand new transformers. Duke has had to replace all 3 of them. And here's what happened. Duke lost power to the building, but when the transformer went, we have 2 other transformers that continue to provide power, but they were down 1. And so what that does is it means we have partial power, but not full power. And so Regency Oaks uses a 3-legged power supply, and one of the legs went down, and so we only had 2 legs because we only had 2 transformers that were providing power to the building. And so how many of you noticed that you would go into your living room and the lights and TV would be on, you'd go into the bedroom and nothing would work? Did anyone have? Yeah, okay. So that's called intermittent power, and it's because one of the 3 legs to our source was out. And so we only had 2 legs of power, and that's not enough to sustain enough power to do anything. And so think about your apartment. With only 2 legs, you couldn't power everything on your breaker panel. You had some lights in one room, but not lights in the other. Think how that would impact air conditioners, which draw huge wattage. They didn't have enough power to run the air conditioners. And so this happened at, I don't know, 9 o'clock, maybe Friday night, and 7, a little earlier. And we had one building back by about 11. We had the second building back by 2. That was Duke Power, not us. And so here's what happened. When that happens, every single HVAC in the building has to be reset. There are 458, 458 I think is the count of air conditioners that have to be reset. Not all of them popped up. As Chris mentioned, we had staff here most of the weekend working on that. The major damage that it caused and why the response was delayed is we had 2 of the pumps on the chillers go down, and they were brand new pumps. And Darwin, one of the, this was really brilliant of Darwin, and I want to give him kudos. We had just put in 2 brand new pumps as part of this renovation that's going on with the chillers. How many have seen the cranes? Okay, we're renovating the chillers, and we had put in 2 brand new pumps. Darwin took one of those old pumps, because these things are about $5,000 a piece, and he took it out and had it rebuilt. And so it was back sitting on a pallet. And he did it just as a redundancy in case we ever had an emergency. He said, gosh, wouldn't it be a great idea if we had an extra pump? And so he had an extra pump. When that went down, we were able to at least get some air conditioning in both buildings. The other pump was had to be sent out and was being rebuilt. And then he was faced with was actually a pretty easy decision. We had 1 chiller in each building working, 1 chiller in each building not working, and he had to make a choice. Okay, what are we going to cool? Are we going to cool the resident apartments, or are we going to cool the common areas? Well, it was a pretty easy choice, and so he elected to cool the apartments, and so you probably have noticed that the hallways and the corridors were common areas were hot over Saturday, Sunday, and part of Monday. That's the reasoning behind it. Where do we stand today? We're fully back up and running. All the pumps have been replaced. The new pump is back on site. It's been rebuilt. We still have it as a backup in case something should happen again. But the team really did an outstanding job. Over the weekend, you probably saw all the trucks that were here. Our HVAC contractor was here. Clearwater Plumbing was here. Piper Fire was here, all working the problem. And of course, Duke was here to support us and get that power back as well. So that's sort of what happened. And this never happens in the winter. It always happens in the dead of summer. That's right. That's Murphy's Law. So Darwin and the maintenance team did a really good job of responding and dealing with this emergency. So if you see him out and about, just give him a big thanks, because he really did a phenomenal job. Next slide. Hurricane follow-up. It was brought to my attention that a couple of things that I usually talk about at the hurricane follow-up I missed on the last presentation, so I wanted to come back and just tie up some loose ends. When we talk about the elevators on the emergency generator system, that is true but not complete. Not every elevator is on the emergency generator system. It's 1 per building. And so in the north building, it's the core elevator, and in the south building, where you go to the bank, as you're facing the bank, it's the elevator on the far right-hand side. And so while we're talking about the emergency generator, Do we have anyone here who was caught in the elevator? Okay. And so how did you get caught in the elevator if the emergency generator is supposed to kick on and take care of that? Here's what happened. The emergency generator didn't kick on because it was a three-legged power and two of the legs were still functioning, and so there was electricity coming into the building, and the emergency generator didn't recognize by design that there was no power to the building. It recognized that there was power. They didn't recognize that there wasn't full power. And so that's why you got to go through an evacuation of an elevator. One of the other things that we discovered in our after action analysis, the elevators had just completed their annual survey, but none of the emergency generator lights functioned. And so they are headed out here today to figure out why those emergency generator lights didn't work. All the lights are on the emergency backup, so we've got to figure that out, and they're working on that today. One of the other follow-up is, what about guests? And if you have an apartment, you wanted to bring guests because Regency Oaks is such a safe building, please don't. Our planning, emergency planning, is based upon the supplies necessary for our residents. And if each of you were to bring a guest, we'd be in trouble. And so it's not that we aren't caring or that we're heartless. And if you have a special needs circumstance, please come and talk to me about it. But as a general rule of thumb, our planning doesn't provide for supplies, food, and water to accommodate additional guests that are unplanned. And so we just wanted to reiterate that and go back and pick that up. Bits and pieces, Arts and Crafts Woodworking shop is going to close next Monday, the 13th, and they think they are only going to be in there 5 days, and so it would reopen on the 20th, which is the following Monday. Our thinking is that because they're only going to be in there for a week, we probably don't need to do anything but relocate the cards, and so that's what we're planning on right now. The Gastro Pub is got pushed back. It was opening on the 14th, I think, and so 18th. It's now the 18th. So we are going to make that date the first week, which is it's a Monday, and so that first week it's going to be open for evenings only as we figure out the new menu, and then the following week on the 25th. We'll be adding the breakfast and the lunch. So we'll be completely reopened by the 25th of July. For evenings, it's going to be the 18th. Dustin and the dining team is going to be holding a series of meetings on reservations, how to use them, how to make them, how to work with them. That's going to be this Thursday, and it's right here in the town hall. There are 2 offerings, one at 11 and one at noon. And then Friday, there will be 2 additional offerings, one at 12 and one at 1. And so you can attend any one of the 4 meetings and come and learn about how reservations are going to work and how to make them. And then a reminder for those of you who are interested in participating, this is, we've done this in the past. Regency Oaks has donated backpacks, and we are filling them with school supplies for our children of our workers as they will go back to school in August. And so we've started that project here this week. Look for, I believe there are boxes. Yes, there are boxes in the front desk. Okay. Lobby front desk. All right. And don't forget, the forum, if you have not heard, is moving from the 1st of July, holiday weekend. There are too many people who aren't here, both residents and staff. And so we're moving it to the 8th, which is the following Friday. So forum is moving to the 8th. And then by July 1st, please be sure that you have selected your initial meal plan. Everyone needs to have made an initial selection. You're not locked into it, but it's an initial selection so that we will be able to know whether you're on the meal of the day program or one of the 2 bistro meal plans. That has to occur by July 1st. I think that's it. All right.
Any questions? Then wait for the microphone and make sure you hold it close.
I am in the R wing on the 2nd floor, and I was supposed to have somebody in there at 10 o'clock this morning to start scraping the walls. I have damage in the living room on the walls and on the ceiling and in the hallway. And now you say they pulled everybody out and put them over to construction?
So
Nobody showed up today. They told me, be sure and be ready for us at 10 o'clock.
Yeah. So yes, and I think, isn't yours like they just needed 30 minutes? I heard about yours yesterday.
What?
I think they just needed 30 minutes in your apartment.
Oh, they
Yeah.
they need a lot more. They have to scrape the wall is peeling, and we have several water damage in the ceiling.
Yeah.
Stains across the living room and the entrance hall, and peeling.
Yeah. So you're in 20. What's your apartment number?
R210.
210. Okay. So your Elaine's situation is a little different. She's in the section that is already open, and so your unit is completely dried out. And so, but as part of the remediation, they had a section of your ceiling that they had to come in and do some scraping on. And so I don't know why they weren't there at 10, but I'm confident that they will be there today. We talked about you at the 9 o'clock meeting, so they'll be there today.
A couple of questions. Did I understand you correctly to say that if the power was out in the elevators, then emergency lighting would come on in the elevators, or should have come on?
Yes,
Okay, so you're trying to find the solution to that problem.
we're trying to find why it failed.
The other question is, the tabletops in the new tabletops in the pub, they really need to have a couple more coats of some kind of this polyurethane or something on, because there's crevices and cracks in this thing, that if we don't get it fixed up, it's gonna be, you're gonna have food residue in those places, and it won't make it nearly as clean. So my question is there a plan to put some more coverage on top of those
So
tables?
we've inquired of that multiple times, because the tabletops in the new gastro pub are custom hand-hewn reclaimed wood. They're really quite attractive. It currently
You're cutting out on the microphone for some reason.
Of course that's not gonna work. Okay, how's that? Better? Okay. It currently has, let's just change it. It's going back and forth.
Testing.
Thank you. So it currently has 7 layers of polyurethane on it, and we've tested it because we didn't believe it. So we took a bottle of ketchup and squeezed it right on the table and rubbed it in. It washed right off. It does have natural crevices, you're absolutely right, but it has supposedly 7 layers of urethane on it.
Let's get more folks.
Yeah.
staff was absolutely wonderful. My comments are, one, why didn't we see our captains? And you had nothing to do with it, I guess, but it was dark in the elevator and the emergency button didn't work. It was busy signal.
Yeah. So she's talking about the emergency elevators. She was caught. She was complimenting the staff for doing such a good job, but had a couple of questions about, one, why didn't the lights come on? And we have discovered that the lights didn't come on any of the elevators when we lose power, and they should have. And so we have the elevator company coming out to try to address that, because those lights should have come on. The phone system is a little bit different than what people think. There's not a real phone in the elevator. It's a push button. And so when you push that button, it immediately goes to the front desk. And so if the front desk is on the line with other residents, and you might imagine that would happen in a power failure where they'd be getting 100 phone calls, you will get a busy signal. But it is a single alert that goes to an annunciator panel, so that we know, regardless of whether or not your phone call gets through, we know that someone is trapped in the elevator. That's how they were able to respond as rapidly as they were. It doesn't depend on you talking to us. It just depends on you notifying us by pushing that button.
Thank you for saying that, because I think it's really important to know that.
Yeah, that is important.
Now, we're all in this thing together, both staff and management and residents. And I think it would go a long way if you would communicate more with us like you do on Tuesdays, so we know in advance what's happening. And, for instance, just not taking stuff out of the dining room, like, food, I think we should just address the people who do. The rest of us shouldn't be punished for it. And then, there should be an emergency backup kit at the front desk at all times, because they gave me a key to the Saratoga, but, there was no flashlight, no lantern. The gal that was there luckily dug something out of the purse and gave it to me. There, early in the day, I had taken in my pen to be tested, and they said it was dead. There were no backup batteries. I got into the Saratoga. There were no handicap bars, no hand soap. Your rating's really gonna go down.
All right, thank you.
Quick question, going back, those people who come down with the COVID, have they all been vaccinated? No.
Yes.
No.
Yeah, and so all of the individuals in the IL who have had COVID have already been vaccinated and boosted, and that's why their COVID symptoms are mild to moderate, is because they're already protected. Great question. Oh, hold on.
Good morning, Brent, and ladies and gentlemen. My name is Bill Lewis. I wanted to get my name up on the Margaret and I lived in R502. And when the fire department arrived, they kicked the door in. We appreciated that. They looked around and didn't see a body, so they left. A door has been replaced. You know that. It's an interior door. I sure wish I could lock the door. Now, Brent, if this were your home over in North Tampa, and you had workers outside walking around, and you couldn't lock your front door, but you left for work, you might be a little concerned. It was announced that it would be 6 months before we would get a door. That's kind of a long time for Margaret to stand guard. I wish you would address that, please.
Thank you, Bill. So move on. Bill, let's see if we can't figure out how to get some sort of lock, even if it's a furniture wedge. You can have Margaret kick it under the door.
You have to be able to lock it from the outside.
From the outside, okay. Thank you, sir.
Did you know there's no air conditioning in the pool area? The pool, no air,
As of when?
as when, since we had the electric out.
Oh, okay, yeah, I think it's been restored. Anyone been in
Not this morning.
this morning? How was it this
No.
morning?
Yesterday was terrible.
Yeah, yesterday was terrible.
And today it's terrible.
Okay, I'll check. It should be back, but I'll check.
No, it isn't bad.
I'll check for you.
It's just there.
Got it. Yes, ma'am.
I guess I have the microphone. I'm currently on the 21-day plan, and my plan was to stay on it for the month of July, see how it works, and then change. You were saying 2 bistro plans,
Yes.
which they are going to replace the 21-day plan.
No.
No. Okay.
Yeah. So there are currently 3 plans. There's the meal of the day plan,
Yeah.
and then there's the bistro meal plan.
Yeah.
And there are 2 versions. There's one, 21 day, and then there is the number of days in the month. And so you're on the 21 day plan.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And so, I know that, a lot of you are saying, well, I'm eventually gonna go to the meal of the day plan, but I'm just gonna sit here and let you continue to give me $45 back each month until October 1st, and then, you can force me into the meal of the day plan, and that's a good strategy, but, just FYI, full transparency, the $9 that you're counting on for the meal of the day deduction up in the dining rooms does not reflect my actual cost, and they are subject to increases to get me up to market value. So just that heads up.
Grant, when the arts and crafts room closes next week, do we have a place to sell our arts and work?
We just have to find a location. It's only gonna be for, it's only a week, so we have to find a location for that.
I have a question about the core elevator in the north building. It really smells bad. It has one of the ceiling, plexiglass, whatever that is really stained and damaged. And on the floor, I don't know what it's called, but like a baseboard, one is like half loose and needs to either be kicked back into place. So is that an elevator repair person who would do those things?
Well, so is it fire damage or just wear and tear?
Oh, it's from the flood. It's from 4.5 feet of water in it for however long it was. So the odor is horrible.
So here's how that works. And so they break this up into 2 different segments. There's remediation, which stops the damage. And so it dries everything up, stops the damage, makes it workable again. And then the construction is when they would come back and have to replace the carpet, repair the ceiling tiles, put the baseboards back in. And so it's 2 different processes. And evidently the remediation team, they don't allow those kids to have hammers. The construction team, they don't mess with the vacuums. And so that's sort of how.
And would it be that team or would it be the elevator people?
It'll be that team.
That team would do it. And you probably didn't want to close it down to do that because it was working.
That's right.
And could you explain how do you get people out when the elevator stops and they're trapped in there? What's that process?
So, yeah, great question. So we get a notification. There's a big long key, about that long, that is at each front desk. and you have you ever noticed on the upper right-hand side of the elevator door, there's a hole? Anyone ever see that door, that hole? Yeah. This is skeleton key, goes right in there, and you have to crank it to the unlock position, and then you can slide those doors back. We locate where the cab is. It doesn't tell us whether it's on second floor, third floor, fourth floor. So, we knock and count on you to yell to identify where you are. And then it will stop, 9 times out of 10, it will stop directly at a floor because they're hydraulic. And then we just gotta find out where you are, and then we bring you off the elevator after we unlock it.
After coming home from a trip last weekend, we used the luggage cart. The luggage carts need a lot of help. In fact, when I had to move out of my apartment, there's no way we could push it. There's flat tires. We need some help on the luggage carts. I don't know if anybody else has no. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
We can't find the luggage cart.
Yeah,
That's it.
so here's the problem. I'm not sure I know. I think we have 5, maybe 6 luggage carts per building. Yeah. And they disappear. They're like pillows. we have a fetish about luggage carts. I keep buying them, they keep disappearing. And so let me just send a reminder out to everyone. If you have, and staff is guilty of this as well, but if you have a luggage cart in your apartment because you're holding clothes or you're going to use it tomorrow to take stuff to the storage and you want to make sure you get it, I understand, but please don't do that. Return the luggage carts. But we have 2 relatively new. We just bought them last year. They're the gold and red in each building. And then everything else, the other 3 in each building are the ones that we didn't throw away. And then beyond that, there are the old aluminum ones with the black carpets. Those are CDS construction luggage carts. And so it's not that I don't think we don't have enough luggage carts. I think we all need to be conscious of returning luggage carts and using them, just grabbing them just when you need them, as opposed to holding on to them for.
But the tires seem to be flat. You can't push them, even when you got something on them.
Well, the new ones are airless tires, so they can't be flat. You're probably talking about one of the old CDS construction, and those things, the tires do get flat. Those are air tires.
Yeah, there.
I have a question about this. I don't understand why we're having an increase in the food prices. I don't understand that.
What do you not understand about that?
Well, we pay a consumer price index each year, and each one of us who has an increase in our monthly service fee each year, we're paying the current rent, we're paying the current price for food.
Well, and so, you're not, but.
Yes, we are.
You're not,
By
but,
definition, we are.
well, you're not, and so consumer price index, he's asking, the consumer price index should have a amount in there for food, and it does, but it is not the only thing that affects the consumer price index. And remember, I don't know if you're watching Consumer Price Index.
Yes, I am.
So right now, the Consumer Price Index is 10.8%. And so it's driven by 2 things, primarily gasoline and food. And so, yes.
And we'll be paying for that next year.
Yes, and so your monthly service fee provides some offset, but it's not a dollar for dollar offset. And that's why, part of the reasoning behind this plan is you need to look at it this way. I can continue to provide you a meal at $9, or I can add it to your monthly service fee increase. And, here's my thinking on this. We're better to charge you the actual cost of your meal and try to protect your monthly service fee increase so that we don't get hit with these massive out of control increases. That's my thinking on this.
A lot of the items that you have in the consumer price index, you do not pay for.
Have you been to Publix lately?
You just haven't. And so here's
That's by contract, we pay by consumer price index plus 2%.
No.
By contract, that is in our contract.
yeah, and so that's,
Some items you don't have in the
and-
consumer price index, you don't pay for.
And
You don't pay
that's-
for medicines. You don't have hardly any expense for medicines.
and
You
so tell me
you
what
don't pay
you've
for
done.
apparel. You don't have for many items that they're in the consumer price index, you do not pay for.
All right,
So,
you done?
so that offsets what you have. And you also have a 2% above that.
All right.
So that covers a lot.
All right, you done?
I'm finished.
So here's what I would recommend. The reason we are providing you with the meal of the day plan is it's inflationary protection for you. That's the sole purpose of this plan, is you don't have to worry about what's happening with the cost of food because we've baked it into the monthly service fee increase. And that's how we're going to be able to give you that inflationary protection as we go forward. So I encourage everyone here, you've heard me say this multiple times, you should only be considering the meal of the day program. Any other program does not work.
I have two things. I have two things I want to mention that were in conversation today. The carts that you ordered with the arch over them, they're not really practical for here. You need a bar across where people can hang things. First thing. Second thing, I was noticing when Bill mentioned their apartment won't lock. Why couldn't a door be taken